why they have a say-so in the matters of either politics or the way a household is run outside of male permission is actually baffling to me. I don't even really understand it. Seems incoherent.
Supposedly, Andrew is just an observer. But if he's only narrating, why does he keep picking sides? Let's see how description turns into prescription.
So because they're not equal, they cannot be equal because of this. I don't understand why they should have equal rights to vote, why they should have equal rights to men if they are not in the position where they can actually enforce their own rights and only men can.
Is Andrew pulling a Motte-and-Bailey? Motte-and-Bailey is a tactic where we have this one tame, easy to defend claim, the Motte, plus one bold, controversial claim, the Bailey. So when attacked, he would retreat to the tame claim, then later slide back to the bold one. So he's got his two positions here. So when somebody that's criticizing him, they have some moral objections, he ducks into the descriptive mode. He's just like, well, I'm just saying that's just how it is. I'm just describing how the world works. Neutral about it. It's just how it is. But elsewhere, when he's a little bit more comfortable, he keeps preaching the prescriptive Bailey, so male guardianship, women must comply, that sort of thing. So it's the same topic and two different claims depending on pressure. He hops from an is statement, the safe Mott, to an ought statement, the risky Bailey, and back again.
Great. But they're always going to have to appeal to men's strength for force, no matter what.
But this is not just descriptive. He asserts it's inescapable and permanent, implying it's proper or right. There is no openness to changing the power dynamic.
Okay, so because someone cannot enforce their own rights, they don't deserve rights.
Well, they don't have them.
He ducks moral obligation, but implicitly supports the woman shouldn't be granted rights unless they can enforce them through force.
Just
They
because
don't-
they cannot
they-
physically defend themselves.
How do you deserve something that doesn't exist?
He mocks the idea that women deserve rights. He jokes that you can't deserve something that doesn't exist, like women's rights, without force. So he isn't just being neutral here, he's dismissing the whole idea that women should have rights.
And he didn't answer it. Why should men enforce women's rights? Why should they?
Because it is morally unacceptable to control others. It is morally impermissible.
That's the opposite. You're not controlling. If you're enforcing their rights, it sounds like they're controlling you, right? Like, how are you controlling them by enforcing their rights?
But right is simply, as we've defined it,
Yeah.
a privilege without a
So
duty.
why should men enforce women's privileges?
But they don't have to. So what are you defining as?
Answer my question. Why should men enforce women's
They
privileges?
don't have to enforce women's privilege.
Great. I believe the exact same thing.
Implies women should always depend on men for power. Andrew says that women have to rely on men for force, like it's just a natural order and can't ever change. That doesn't just describe things, it suggests that's how it should be. And when asked if women deserve rights, if they can't enforce them, he says, well, they don't have them, and dodges the real question. He never supports the idea that women should have rights, just opposite. If you can't back them up, you don't get them. He straight up agrees that men shouldn't help enforce women's rights, not just describing it as fact, but saying that's how things ought to be. And note, there's a lot of contradictions here as well. So between different conversations, he'll say one thing and he'll say another thing. He'll say, yes, women should have rights.
Do you believe that women ought to have rights as well, or you're just talking purely about the what is?
Well, I've already covered that, right? So yes, of course, I think that they ought to have the same rights
Okay.
ordinarily that I would ascribe in a Christian virtue ethic to anybody.
No, women shouldn't have rights. Men should enforce them. Back and forth. I'm confused too.
Privilege comes the almost necessary condition that homes should be run in compliance with this descriptive reality, as the responsibility for the security of the woman is ultimately going to be in the hands of a man for any ultimate redress. Be that securing women's rights through warfare, a justice system, or even a revolution, not to mention just allowing them to sustain via infrastructure, that responsibility is his alone because he's the only person who can do those things. She can't. There will always be some exceptional women who can also do something like this, but they are an insignificant minority to the point where in many industries, they might as well not even exist in them at all. But even the exception will ultimately have to appeal to men to enforce their will, as they also cannot do so. They never could and they never can. Egalitarianism is a lie. It's always been a lie. And ultimately, because of this, security, even inside the home, is going to fall onto a man. Should such circumstances in society arise, they should always be in charge of the household and make decisions for the household, as the ultimate societal ramifications will almost always fall on him to repair. The ability to use force to enforce, and I'm almost done.
He says homes should always have men in charge making decisions, and that's not just an observation. It's him laying down a rule based on this force doctrine situation. If men give rights, they're in power, right? So let's translate that to the home. Let's translate that everywhere.
Why they have a say so in the matters of either politics or the way a household is run outside of male permission is actually baffling to me. I don't even really understand it. It seems incoherent.
He says women shouldn't have a say without men's permission. He finds it ridiculous for women to have any say in politics or the home unless a man allows it. That's clearly suggesting that's how things should work.
So there's really no way around it. The enforcement mechanism is from men, will always be from men. And so it's paradoxical to say that women can have equal rights, because even if they do have equal rights, it's just because men have allowed them to.
He says that women can never really be equal because men always have the final say. He doesn't just describe this, he backs it, saying equality is absurd.
Right? Remember, I said the word egalitarianism, meaning equality. Equality is laughable, not women's rights, not giving rights to women, in other words. But egalitarianism and equality is laughable because it's paradoxical. And the great paradox of it is that you would be appealing to the same group of people who can then take your rights away while at the same time considering yourself equal to those people. It's laughable. It's a paradox.
Andrew claims that every right women have come from men, says women are generally less competent, and calls the idea of women's equality laughable. He offers these as points he thinks are correct and worth defending.
I do not believe that women can enforce their own rights and that only men can enforce their rights. And so therefore, I do not believe egalitarianism is possible, nor should it be something that we move towards.
Says that not only is real equality impossible, but we also shouldn't even aim for it. So he's not just describing society, he is constantly saying this is how it should be.
Men will always, descriptively speaking, have a monopoly on force. This is an unavoidable consequence of descriptive reality, be that securing women's rights through warfare, a justice system, or even a revolution, not to mention just allowing them to sustain via infrastructure. That responsibility is his alone because he's the only person who can do those things. She can't. In political action, right, there is always what is called the violent alternative, and men can always appeal to that alternative. It's a terrible thing. I'm not advocating for that. I'm giving a descriptor for what is true. This is something which can be appealed to for men, but only for men. Women can only do small scale. So even in kind of the craziest feminists you can think of, the best they were able to do is like send some boom booms in the mail and this kind of thing. But they couldn't really push back against a structure of strength. It wasn't really possible for them to do. You see the voting gap as it begins to widen, as men become more right-wing and women more left-wing. What happens eventually if what is considered the patriarchy has been pushed against just decides one day, no more rights for women. Women cannot resist men with force, even at the micro level. And so will always, once again, they will appeal to men to do it for them. They have to. Why they have a say-so in the matters of either politics or the way a household is run outside of male permission is actually baffling to me. I don't even really understand it. It seems incoherent. So they're begging at the altar for men to enforce their rights while at the same time saying that they're equal to men. It's absurd. They're not equal to men. There's never going to be an egalitarian society because of this one fact that men can collectively, whenever they so choose, even in a small collective, just snatch your rights away and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what I'm saying. That's why feminism is absurd. That's why the girl power shit's all fucking absurd. It's all stupid. It's all it makes no sense because you're appealing to the people who could take your rights away for your rights and saying you're equal with them. It's absurd. Eventually, what ends up happening is we do have to face down actual facts and actual reality. And in actual reality, if you end up with too much internal conflict based around this egalitarian system, what's actually going to prevent men from just taking away women's rights altogether? There doesn't seem like there's anything that would stop that from happening.
Men in charge, women only getting rights, men give them whatever they happen to allow, whatever they feel like. Women have to beg for their rights, and men are just so nice that they just benevolently hand us rights. Thank you. And that we shouldn't pursue equality. These are prescriptive, not just descriptive statements.